Hello there.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Cantina Session Hour. Happy Friday. Hope you guys are doing excellent. Thank you for being with us this evening. Hope you had a great week and you are ready to get your weekend started with some toy talk, with some fun conversations here in the Cantina. Welcome everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. We have a great guest tonight returning to the Cantina that we're going to bring in just a moment. So there's a few topics to cover. I mean, you guys are following the toy news, right? A couple Black Series things this week that went up. We're going to touch on. There was a Hot Toys drop earlier today at 10 a.m. And I got a story to go along with it. So you're going to hear my story, for better or for worse. We're going to talk about what's going on with toys. What is the situation with toys lately? Is the boom starting to implode a little bit? You know, what's going on there? We're going to talk about that. The Phantom Menace, 25 years. We touched on it a little bit during our special May the 4th live stream last week. We're going to get a little bit deeper into that and kind of just reminisce on what that means for, you know, the history of the Star Wars toy line going back to that point in 1999. And we'll talk about new acquisitions and what's going on with HasLab, you guys. I know you're thinking about it. You're wondering, like, hey, Victoria, what's going on with the HasLab? So we'll touch on that as well. So there's plenty to go around for everyone. But let's see who is here with us in the conversation. Let's see who's hanging out with us tonight. So Dodgson, you're always like the first comment. What is going on, my friend? Adam, how are you doing? Good to see you, Adam. Paul, welcome, Paul. We've got Battery Bob. Battery Bob, how are you doing? Always good to see you here in the Cantina. Pico B1, how's it going, my friend? Thank you for hanging out with us this fine evening. Thanks for being here. We have Mike. Hey, Mike. What's up, Mike Case? How are you doing? Good to see you in the Cantina. We got Tom Chorlton. Tom, how's it going? Angry Tom with us tonight. Going to spoil our vibe just a little bit in a good way, in the best way possible. Nice. Off to a good little start. Trevor, how's it going? Thank you for joining us. Jeff, how is it going? Welcome to the Cantina. Yeah. Very nice. We got Tim in the house. We got 17 Decimal 2 Nate, Mr. Ryan Clark, Rhino Hobbies. How you guys doing? Moxie C, how are you doing? Mary, how's it going? Mary, good to see you. Britt, how's it going? Good to see you. Mr. Ryan Clark, how are you doing? Road Killer, William. Awesome. We are off to a great start tonight. So welcome all. All right. So we're going to go ahead and bring into the Cantina the one, the only, returning to VC for the first time since April 2022, 2 years ago now. Here he is, the one, the only Dan Larson.
Hello there.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me back.
Of course. Thank you for being here.
2 years, 2022, you said? That was a while.
Yeah. I was like, when was it? So I started looking in my stream history and I was like, yeah, it was April 2022.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, glad to be back.
Yeah. Welcome back. Everybody will be nice. They know not to bite. They know not to toss things over the bar, all that kind of
Yeah, you
stuff.
can't say anything I haven't heard before.
Awesome. So Dan, what's new over on your channel? You know, you got all these videos. They're all stellar. They're all, you know, very intriguing. I always learn something, even if it's something that I think I'm pretty well versed in. Every time I watch, I'm like, oh, there's a tidbit there that I didn't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you know, our presentation has evolved over the years. Obviously, we started out doing just regular toy reviews and stuff, moved into history, and even that has evolved to the point where, you know, and we've been around long enough that every 2-3 years we start to think about, like, do we need to revisit some of these topics because our presentation style has changed, and there's just more to the stories than we had initially covered in many cases. And so there were quite a few video topics that we went back and recovered. And it's just, you know, you do a thing enough times, you get better at it. And I'm a different writer than I was when we started. I'm a different host than when we started. And, you know, for producer Greg and I, the thing that excites us the most about making videos these days is the sort of journalism that goes into it. You know, we treat each topic the same way and try to get excited about telling those stories, finding the most interesting things about them, and then telling the most comprehensive story that we can. And in some cases, filling in some, you know, gaps in the story that have been there that haven't been told before, and in some cases, correcting, you know, the public sources. Yeah, you know, we did a couple videos recently where, you know, the piece of information was like, oh, this thing debuted at X date, and we're like, well, you know, we found newspaper advertisements that had dates that predated it by like 2-3 years. So you know, it's like it's exciting, it's fascinating. We learn stuff every time we do these videos as well, so it's great to hear that you are learning things as well, because that's, you know, we want to have fun, we want to educate a little bit and just tell some fun stories.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and you know, that's one of the things I love about y'all's channel is, you know, and, you know, I've said this before, like with my channel, I started off, you know, doing toy reviews, right? Like 2013, it was like kind of, you know, YouTube was still kind of, as far as toy content goes, still kind of an early thing, you know, but everybody was doing toy reviews. Um, but you know, that's one of the things I love about Secret Galaxy is that, you know, it's beyond that, right? You know, you're focusing more on the origins of some of these toy lines, some of these cartoons, some of these films, and just kind of getting into, you know, the meat of why, you know, so many of us are drawn to them, and you know, that's always super cool.
Yeah, we found that, you know, I mean, obviously I still collect action figures and toys and stuff. It's still a very big part of me and you know, what I enjoy, my hobbies. But we found, as far as the channel was concerned, if we didn't expand that audience, then, you know, we were sort of putting an artificial ceiling on our growth, you know, and we found that, you know, the core of the audience is people who knew, you know, grew up in the 80s and the 90s. And we found that if we didn't expand out beyond toys and comics and cartoons and stuff from the 80s and 90s, then we were going to be forced to have to rehash the same subjects over and over and over again. And we couldn't see a future in that. So we really had to broaden our scope and include things that weren't necessarily, you know, like we tried, we did a video about Gary Larson's The Far Side comic strip, which, you know, earlier in the life of the channel, that's something we never would have considered doing. We did Nancy Drew, the history of Nancy Drew books, you know, and that character in pop culture. So those are things that, you know, we're like, all right, well, let's see if the audience wants to go here with us. You know, it's still us. It's still going to be the same sort of approach and visual style and all that stuff. But let's see if they want to watch us talk about Nancy Drew or, you know, Double Dare, you know, for 15 minutes. And so far, it's been pretty cool. People have gone along with us for the ride.
Nice, love it. Yeah, those are good memories. Like, you know, back in the day, Double Dare, and yeah, good stuff. Like I miss those days. Like I just, man, can't believe.
Well, and you know, that sort of sentiment is, it's common, and it may be to a certain degree something that sort of disappears with the generation of kids that grew up in the 80s and the 90s, because once you have this sort of proliferation of cable television, you start to splinter this audience. You know, when I was 10 years old, we had 4 channels, you know, ABC, CBS, NBC, I'm sorry, 5 channels, and then we had 2 UHF stations, and that was it. So, you know, you go to the bus stop in the morning, the kids at the bus stop watched the exact same things you did, because you didn't have any choice. Everybody had to watch the same stuff, or you just didn't watch TV. So, you know, you had cable in there, you had the internet in there, you had streaming services in there. It's very rare now that there are topics where everybody tunes in. So one of the things that's exciting, are you watching X-Men 97?
I am.
So it's exciting because right now it seems like everybody is. And so we're back in this position where we are having this sort of shared pop culture experience, and it's neat and it's exciting.
Totally. Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned X-Men too, because like I know I'm watching, a lot of friends that I have are watching it, but when I, because I'm a teacher, when I talk to kids at school, at work, and none of them are watching it. So I'm like, but like you can definitely see that generational
Yeah,
divide there.
exactly. Well, I mean, it is still connected to, kids who were watching it in the 90s, and it's going to be harder for, today's kids to connect to it. But
Yeah.
I think they're going to have and you would probably have better insight into this than I would, but I think they're going to have their own shared experiences. It's just that, same thing when I was a kid. I didn't want to share what I was doing with my parents. They're doing their own thing, And 20 years from now, they'll be on, I don't know, Hollow YouTube. I don't know what it's going to be called by then.
Who knows? I mean, yeah, I mean, you'll be able to be in the YouTube video,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
sitting right here alongside us having these conversations. Like, who knows?
Talking about all the Discord memes they used to share or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what kids are doing.
Yeah, it'll be wild to see for sure. Got a few other friends joining us. Jason, how is it going? Good to see you. Tom asking, I wonder if Secret Galaxy would do anything about Robotech.
You just ban him. He doesn't need to be here. Just block him for the rest of the night.
Yeah, Tech715, how are you doing? Thanks for coming in here tonight. William, how are you doing? First time, welcome. Glad that you are here. Hope we don't scare you off too harshly. We got 51 in the house. Thank you guys for being with us this evening. All right, so Dan, we're going to get into our first topic here.
Sure.
So there were some new-ish Black Series things that went up for pre-order, just kind of mysteriously, just suddenly.
It was like overnight, in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah, I know. It was weird. It was like before I went to bed, I saw them like, what? How's that like a thing? So I'm going to pull these up here from yakface.com on, or Yakface's Instagram, rather. A couple of Black Series items that went up for pre-order. So I say new-ish because this Emperor Palpatine Enthroned was already out a few years back, and I guess they're bringing it back once again through Amazon, which is nice because I know a lot of people, either slept on it or they thought, hey, it's going to go to clearance, and, it didn't quite do that. So it's back for pre-order. So there is that. There is also this 3-pack here based on Jedi Fallen Order. So you get 3 droids here. There is a Magna Guard, Super Battle Droid, and a Battle Droid, each with some unique looking pieces. Especially the Magna Guard looks like it's got a variation of that staff, and the Battle Droid's got a really weird, I don't even remember that from the game, looking kind of weapon.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that cloth goods on the Magna Droid? Is that new? I think that's new for that figure.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
I don't have
it looks new.
release. Yeah.
I hope they tweaked it though, because that one is hard to stand. Like I haven't had any success with getting them to stand very long.
I mean, that goes back to especially those battle droids. I mean, that goes back to the original, episode 1 releases for Phantom Menace back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And you could almost, if you got a battle droid who didn't have, bowed legs, you didn't have to put on a stand. It was a miracle.
Yeah, that's true. Those little Comtech stands.
All of it, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's just the kind of thing they're never gonna quite. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like if they haven't figured it out after 25 years.
Yeah,
I don't know.
well, I mean, it was very clearly designed to be. How is this going to look on screen? I don't think at the time they were thinking like, how are we going to be able? Are we going to be able to make great toys out of this guy? It looks great, but how small are these plastic legs going to be? How thin?
Yeah, and Brit's correcting the box here. It says it's actually based on Jedi Survivor. Okay. That's why I don't remember those weapons. Okay, that would make sense. Thank you, Britt. And yeah, this is a good point from Tom. Stronger plastic is easier to snap. Yeah, that can be true. If it becomes too brittle, you can. I mean, are adults going to really do that? I mean, I know kids probably will, but I mean, I'll take the risk. Give me the more brittle plastic. If it means it's going to stay on the shelf, I'll take it.
Sure enough.
Yeah, so just wanted to touch on that. Let's see, what else do we have for this week? All right, there was a Hot Toys thing that happened this week. So I'm going to go to Sideshow's site and pull this up. This was another one that out of nowhere, I think it was within the last day or two that they announced, Hot Toys announced that they were doing a new Loki. And I think we all knew this was coming because they had said a while back that they kind of teased that it was coming. But now it's actually up for pre-order. So here is the Hot Toys Loki right here, God Loki as they're calling it.
Which is,
and there's,
I mean, he's always been a god. Like, why is
I
this God
know,
Loki?
I know, it's kind of, yeah. Like, all right, Hot Toys, God Loki. So here he is. There's two versions. Okay, so there's
Also,
the artisan.
spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it yet.
If you haven't seen it yet, I don't know what's wrong with it. I don't know what to say. Yeah, so there's the artisan edition, which is, they've done maybe like 6 or 7 artisan figures of different franchises so far, and the artisan is supposed to be like their more elite version of their figures. It's usually just small differences. It's the wool implanted hair and just like minor things here and there.
Oh yeah, he does have that like real hair there.
Yeah,
Real
yeah.
hair.
So
yeah,
he does have real hair, and there's the collector edition if you want to save some money. Basically the same thing. You still get I'll show you, get the throne and everything, but this one has the plastic sculpted hair. $290 versus $445. It's pricey, but for me, I love this character. I'd put him in my top 10 like favorite like characters ever.
yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I got to go for the artisan. So here's the thing that's really frustrating though. This thing looks awesome. It looks awesome. I've gotten the other Hot Toys Loki figures that they've come out with from this show. This one, what they've been doing with artists in the last few weeks is they'll put it on Sideshow's website, and then you can RSVP, and then they send you an email when it's time to go and pre-order it, which is not a great thing because if you're at work and you're not like glued to your emails, you're going to miss it. This one though, they didn't even do that. They just threw it up on the site this morning. And I was at work, so I couldn't do it, but I had somebody on my behalf that was refreshing throughout the morning to see if it was going to come up. And they're like, yeah, Victoria, it's up, at 10. And I'd already said, yeah, when it comes up, go for it. So it went up at 10 o'clock. And my person noticed it at 10:06. And they're like, it was like, okay, well, they're going to try and get it right. They got all the way. You have to go through a queue, right? And it's like, okay, there are 2,000 people ahead of you. You got 9 minutes estimated, and then it goes down from there. My person that was trying to get it got all the way to checkout with it in cart, and then when it was okay, go ahead and complete order, it said your cart is now empty.
Yeah,
we hate you, Victoria. We hate you.
Cart checking, is that what they call it?
Yeah, I was robbed. I was totally robbed out of this one. But
yeah,
that's how it goes.
Sucks. Did you try for the other one, or did you just say if you couldn't?
Yeah, I said, hey, if you don't get that, give me the consolation prize. Get me just the regular. I mean, like I said, it's basically the same thing. Like if I jump over to it, I mean, it looks just as good, to be honest. It's not the artisan version, which is okay. I'll save money, and there's a wait list, so who knows? The same thing happened for me with the Revenge of the Satanic in October, and then my wait list converted, so I was able to pre-order it.
Oh,
so maybe that'll happen here.
But I have no experience with it. I own 2 Hot Toys figures. One I bought in 2010, I think. It was First Avenger Captain America. I think I paid $120 for it at the time, which was like, oh my god, this is the most I've ever spent on like one thing. And then the only other one I have is I think it came out like maybe 4 years ago, is the Kenner Colors homage Boba Fett, which there's no way I was going to pass on that. And I think that one was also only like $120, which surprised me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, they are definitely pricey, and it is a rabbit hole. I always tell people, you're going to buy one, start thinking about space for more than one, because it's hard. It's really hard.
Do you just put them in one pose and then they just live there, or do you actually like take them down, mess with them occasionally? Do you?
More or less, they stay in one pose for a long time, and then when it's time to pull them all out at one time and kind of do a reorganization like once a year, whatever it ends up being, then I'll kind of move them around. But by and large, they just kind of go in there and they stay, and they look pretty. That's basically that.
Yeah, no, they're gorgeous. I couldn't go down. I mean, first of all, it's expensive, obviously. So if you're doing Hot Toys, you kind of got to be all in on Hot Toys just for budgetary reasons. Most people do. I don't think people have that much flexibility in their budgets. I don't. And I just, as a collector, I've never been I don't keep boxes. I don't, like, I want to handle them. I want to mess with them. I want to put them in different poses, put them in the photo booth, take pictures and stuff. And if just by chance, if something happens to it, it falls and breaks, something gets spilled on it, light damage, whatever. Like, I don't want it to be my fault that something happened to this very expensive, collectible thing. Like $20 figure, like, oh, my cat knocked it off the shelf and the arm broke off. Oh well, not $20, like.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, it's a cool piece. I was really like when are they gonna do it? When are they gonna do it? Because they're Hot Toys is really weird. Like they'll announce something from a show that came out like years ago and say,
oh yeah,
like barely, like. So it's like, when are they going to do this Loki? And, people were asking for it. Well, here it is. And then they're like, oh, but by the way, we're going to limit it because it's an artisan unless you get the mainline release. So it's like, oh, well. It's pretty cool. I mean, he comes with his timelines. He comes with a throne. Doesn't look very comfortable. So I hope,
No. But if he's a god, who cares, right? Like, he can change the shape of his butt. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, he could probably just conjure like a pillow underneath him or something.
Exactly. Or maybe he's just like hovering like half an inch off of it. Doesn't matter. He's sitting on a field of energy.
Yeah, it's interesting. It looks like it's wrapped in like Hershey Kiss foil or something.
Yeah. Somebody spilled hot gold all over it and it half melted.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool what they did with the photography and all, like kind of give him all the timelines and stuff. So it's going to take up a lot of space. I mean, you can already tell just by looking at it. Like, if you have him set up like this, like, shoot, he needs to have his own like slot on the D-top probably to even fit. And even then that might not be enough space.
Do you have two questions. One, is this the first character they've done from either of the Loki TV series? Nope.
They've done a few others. So they did the TVA Loki in his his jacket and pants. They did the variant version that has kind of from that came with the little alligator.
Okay, so Loki. They did do Loki alligator. Okay.
Yeah, and President Loki is what that one's called.
Excellent. Okay, gotcha.
And they did Sylvie, and then they did classic Loki. The older version. I think that's all they've done from the show, and then this is the next one.
So are you specifically a fan of Loki from the TV series, or do you have other Loki figures or other Asgardians?
Yeah, the only other one I have is the Avengers Endgame version. So, okay. But yeah, I did. I don't really do Marvel like for Hot Toys. Like, I don't. Like, I have a Captain America, and I have a Black Panther. But then, other than that, it's just like these Loki figures. So, yeah. But yeah, it's nice, and I'm curious if anyone here tried to get this figure, the artisan version. Let me know, definitely, because I'm curious. Mary, especially if I know you collect a lot of these, if you were able to snag it. But yeah, it is a fun, and this is a good point, HoloNet. You got to wait a long time with some of these, a long time. So you better be still interested in wanting it after, 2.5 years, because sometimes that is the case when it comes to these. All right. And I am curious, Dan, which Hot Toys do you have?
At one point I had a Stealth Iron Man. I had a Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. I very briefly had Hulkbuster, but I never took it out of the package. That was, I'm sure you remember the nightmare that thing was. It took them like 4 or 5 years or whatever it was to deliver it. Like, I ordered that the year we started our channel, thinking like, oh, this will be a big video. We're gonna be one of the first ones to review this crazy Hulkbuster Hot Toys figure. And by the time it delivered, it was like, I was like, I don't even want this thing. I don't want to do the video. I don't want anything to do with it. So like it came, I had ordered it through my local comic shop. They called me, they were like, it's in. I was like, great. I'm going to come pick it up and I'm literally going to put it on eBay like as soon as I get home. And that's what I did and sold it as, I think I ended up just breaking even on the whole deal. And I was fine with that. Like I didn't open it. I didn't touch it. Like other people had already put up videos and stuff. I'm like, we're not even going to get that value out of it. And who's got the shelf space for that? So at this point, I got rid of the Stealth Iron Man. I got rid of the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. And at this point, I just have the first Avenger cap and the Kenner Colors Boba Fett.
Right on.
Very nice. I can't, honestly, I don't know if I could think of anything that they could come out with that would make me want. Like Kenner Colors Boba Fett, it's like, that's it. I don't need anything else. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, that is. I do have that one too. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
And just to point out, these are the accessories that he comes with, and I just find it funny that they're highlighting his shoes. Like if you can see, like as being some of the accessories.
Oh yeah.
Slippers.
Nice detail. Yeah. Probably didn't even see him on the show.
Yeah, I know, right? Not until the very end, but yeah, no, it's a cool figure, and it's. Hey, maybe the waitlist will convert for me. Maybe not. Either way, I'll save some money if I just go with the regular version that I pre-ordered. So very cool.
Yeah, I live vicariously through other collectors when it comes to hot toys.
That's the great thing about Instagram, right? Like you can take a look.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's cool. Oh, love it. Nice detail, nice this, nice that. Glad you have it. All right. So Superman. So, I assume that a lot of folks have probably seen that new image. So, this new Superman movie, Dan, that's coming, I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to the details. Like when they said they were going to kind of reboot all the DCEU and just kind of do like a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea? Like, is this like a complete like origin story kind of thing, or?
I don't know if we're going origin story. I'm going to try to avoid as many actual details as possible. An image, the costume, that's not a spoiler to me or anything. It's like, commercials used to give you the entire plot, trailers used to give you the entire plot. It's only in the in the Marvel era of films that we've become such a like, oh no, spoilers kind of thing. But I'm not seeking out the information about the film. I trust James Gunn. Peacemaker was fantastic. Guardians of the Galaxy was fantastic. I haven't seen all of the third one yet. I don't know if I actually want to see all of the third one. Got a little bit too much emotional punch for me. So I trust him and the decisions that he's made in the past. So, I've seen the back and forth with this costume, and it's like, guys, it's a costume. Like, don't just relax. Relax. Jeez.
Yeah.
Looks fine.
Looks like a Superman costume, right?
It looks like a Superman costume. What do you want?
Yeah, I mean,
and actually, they're very clear about what they want and very loud, and they type in all caps.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, same thing. I haven't really been following like the rumors or anything like that. Like, when it comes, usually I just like to be surprised, like with whatever it is. I mean, for them to be really ambitious and reboot the whole thing is interesting, and I am very curious about like what directions and choices they're going to make there. But I mean, getting to take a look at the new costumes, like, okay, it's different enough from the last one that it's okay. They're doing something different.
There's almost nothing that can be gleaned from this one photo. This could be a kind of thing where it's like a stand-in for this picture, this could be he has this suit for the first 16 minutes of the film and then he puts on a different one. Like, it's like you can't get anything from this. It's David Cornsweet, I believe is his name. For whoever's asking in the chat there. That's one that I just have to keep saying it over and over because I haven't seen anything that he's been in, and Cornsweet is such an unusual name. So but hey, it's like he's got the look, he's got the spit curl, it's on the right side of his forehead, there's an S, there's a blue suit, capes, trunks, boots, let's go. Like I'm far more forgiving about this stuff than I used to be. It's I used to be in that place of like, no, it's got to be exactly like this. This is how it is in the comics, blah 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 blah. But I don't care anymore. And because there's because there have been so many iterations. You don't like this version? Go turn on My Adventures with Superman on HBO Max. You don't like that version? Go watch the new Lois and Clark show. That one's fantastic. Although I didn't finish the second season. You don't like that one? Fine. Go. There's so many different versions to watch. It's like there's something out there for everybody, and this one's going to be for completely different because it's going to be done in James Gunn's voice.
Yeah, that's true. And it's kind of like Batman, in the same way. It's like there's so many versions out there that there's bound to be one you're going to like.
If it's not the version you like, wait like 10 minutes and you'll get a different version.
Yeah, I know, especially with Batman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to add there. I mean, it looks like a different Superman suit.
Hey, I absolutely hated the Henry Cavill suit the first time I saw it. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. But it grew on me and I like it now, so if you hate this one, I don't know, just wait till the movie comes out, see if you like it then.
Yeah, I know, right? I will say it looks a little uncomfortable. Like it looks like he's maybe a little restricted by it. Like, I don't know, it looks like a tire kind of material, but maybe.
Yeah, well, and it's like, do you make it out of the materials that's going to look good on screen? Do you make it out of the materials that's going to make sense in reality? Where is that line? At the end of the day, as a filmmaker, you should be picking what's going to look best on screen. And, all these little tiny little details with the little texturizations and stuff, that's just an on-screen thing. Part of that is to make it easy to do the CG models. Part of that is just to have something there on screen to make it look more realistic, make it look like it's real materials instead of, a cosplayer,
Right.
And I'll say an average cosplayer, not a good cosplayer, because good cosplayers are like really good
Right.
what they do.
Totally. I will say, like, for me, like the first thing I saw when I saw this wasn't so much the suit, but like looking out the window, like what's going on there? Like,
yeah, right. Also, I think
Right.
he looks like Jack Quaid in this picture, who's
Yeah.
who does the voice of Superman on My Adventures with Superman.
Yeah, it's interesting. You pointed that out. Yeah, like Tomal is saying, like the John Williams score. I mean, yeah, that's like absolutely part of it too, right? Like when you think of that classic Superman, it's like you hear that music in your head.
Sure. I loved the theme from the Cavill series as well. It's a really, I can't remember off the top of my head who did the score on that, but it's a really fantastic score. And while Man of Steel wasn't my favorite Superman movie, it's got some really fantastic moments, and just the score by itself is something that I write to just because it's just great music to listen to.
Yeah. Was it Hans Zimmer? I'm trying to remember who did the
It
score
might
for
be,
that.
I'm not sure. Not possible. I only
yeah,
have
no,
the
it-
entire internet at my disposal here.
Yeah, Mike says it was Hans Zimmer. Or an understudy. Oh yeah, okay. So same thing. Yeah, okay. Sounds like it was him.
There it is.
Alrighty.
All right. Good call.
Cool. All right. So bye, Superman. Good luck to you, sir.
See you soon.
All right. So before we get to the HasLab thing, let's talk about what we're calling the great toy boom, right? The big thing. I want to say that it feels like this started happening like, I don't know, like when things started getting really big was like around the time of The Force Awakens, I would say, like 2015, around that time frame. I mean, things were ramping up even before that, for sure. But I think it was like around 2015 that it's like all these companies are doing all these things, and there's so much money you could spend if you buy all of it. And, nobody's buying all I don't think anybody's buying all of it. But it was just like massive. Like anybody that was, like you were saying earlier, a kid growing up 80s, 90s, now is at this stage at that time where, you got the disposable income, you want to relive those glorious moments of your childhood through these little pieces of plastic that, recreate that sense of nostalgia and really, give you that sense of, oh, this is part of my identity essentially.
Sure.
And, I want to relive that by having them on my shelf and looking at them and having this be a part of my life. I feel like it was around then where that really started to like expand. But what I'm trying to figure out is that still happening, or are we kind of now trending away from that? Are things starting to change? Not just because of prices and what things cost, but are people starting to back off of that? Are toy companies starting to back away from that, and are things starting to trend in the opposite direction?
It's hard to say without actual, data in front of you, for sure. Reading the vibes, reading the vibes of the industry, I feel like it's still accelerating, approaching a point at which it'll start to contract. I've lost count of how many Ninja Turtle lines are available right now. 7? That's not even exaggeration. It might be more than that. I don't know how many are currently available. Does McFarlane have his out yet? I think he's doing some. Like, it's ridiculous how many are out there. Even just Hasbro alone, with the amount of Star Wars product they're still, producing without an actual film in theaters. It's just a lot. And, Marvel's cranking stuff out. Everybody's cranking stuff out. So I still feel like we're at a point of it accelerating and about to snap and then contract. And I think that's all driven by the fact that action figures and physical collectibles and that kind of stuff is in itself a thing that is tied to this generation. And that these, the next generation, maybe 2 generations after this generation, I just don't think they're going to have the same sort of connections to physical stuff and to want to have these massive collections of things, of pop culture characters and things that they were loved as a kid. For me, a lot of my collecting has always been driven by just being a fan of the medium, action figures. Like I tend to feel like a lot of mythology, for me personally, the mythology is like disposable. I don't even really care about it most of the time. I want to make my own adventures, but I'm excited about, we've reached a point in the industry where we have all these other independent companies that never could have competed in the past. The factories weren't there, the materials weren't there, the connection with the audience. You could not have had that. There's some companies right now, independent toy companies, that are thriving off of a customer base that is like 1,000 people. That's it, but they're thriving because they have that direct connection with their customer, and they can keep their customer informed and get those orders turned around quickly. So it just, on my desk here, I have Super 7 figures, I have Hasbro figures, I have Glyos figures, I've got Mythic Legions over here, I've got Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, I've got all kinds of different things. I'm a fan of all the variety and all the different ways that people are creating characters and giving me that opportunity to see different interpretations of things on my shelf and in my collection.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you think back to late 80s, 90s, like it was Playmates, right? Like that was Ninja Turtles, right? You couldn't even imagine like anybody else doing them. And like now it's like, yeah, like everybody, I mean, so many companies, right, are doing Super 7, NECA, and, XYZ. I even saw some, I don't know if you guys have DD's discounts in your neck of the woods, but, we have those like around here. And I went and I don't even remember who makes them, but they had like some for like $10, like 6-inch Ninja Turtle figures. And yeah, it's like, geez, like, I mean, it's kind of cool in a way because, you have something to offer for different levels of like collectors, for kids, whomever. But yeah, it's just interesting that licensing works a lot differently now, or, they can kind of like sub-license to different companies to do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the Hasbro licensing Power Rangers out to Playmates. If you want to read into what that means for Hasbro's business, have at it. I don't know what it means. We'll see in the future, but I'm excited to see what Playmates is going to do with it.
Yeah.
I had a pretty extensive Lightning collection, and I did have to sort of say, okay, I'm not going to continue to go down this route, this path. When they decided to say, okay, now we're going to revisit just the regular MMPR, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, with their sort of ultimate, pinless versions. It's like, we haven't even finished teams, and now we're going to go do version 2s of these figures. I can't do that. More power to anybody who wants to go do that. I can't do it. I got to check out for a while. There's too many things I collect. So I'm curious to see what Playmates is going to do, and if they're going to do are they just going to do straight kids line, or are they going to have multiple offerings? Are they going to attempt a more adult collector line? And if they don't, it's okay. I've still got my Lightning collection Power Rangers over there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Same. And I mean, it's funny. We talked about this. It was a couple episodes back, I guess, whenever this news was making the rounds. But like, what does Playmates do? It's like, well, I mean, generally they cater to more of a kid audience, and their things usually cost a little bit less. like a Hasbro Lightning collection would cost. So I mean, I think that's what they're probably going to do, is kind of a little more kid oriented, a little more maybe budget perhaps, which is fine. I mean, Hasbro's licensing these out. They're making their money either way.
Absolutely.
And Playmates is taking all that risk. So
well, and I think a lot of adult collectors who are vocal on the internet, and that's a subset of adult collectors.
yeah.
Some people tend to lose sight of the fact that these companies, at the end of the day, Hasbro, Mattel, Playmates, they're still toy companies, and they are still trying to sell mass quantities of toys as much as possible. And that's not 6-inch collector geared action figures. That market's just not there. We've had enough time for that market to set and for the kids to pick it up. But the reality is there's that break, right? Like I have, nieces and nephews who are just now, 14, 16, 18 years old. I've got 2 other nephews that are like, 5 and 3 years old. So none of them, none of the older kids were the least bit interested in action figures. There's that like 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, where kids are still, in that tactile stage where they're playing. They're not really connected to screens and the internet and video games and that sort of stuff yet. And that's where the toy market is really focused. That's why if you looked at Hasbro released their first quarter earnings report the other day, and it's Bluey. It's not Bluey, Peppa Pig. Sorry. Peppa Pig is carrying that whole company. It's kid stuff. The Peppa Pig's carrying that whole company right now because that's directed at the littlest little kids, and that's where they can still sell those quantities like they used to.
Yeah,
you're not going to see that kind of stuff come back. I get frustrated when I see, and the response to that on my own Twitter account when I retweeted it was like, oh, if they just lowered the price back down to $20 per figure, that's not going to fix it. That's not going to fix it. The customer base is shrinking, and the independents, the other companies, they're the ones that are benefiting from that because they can survive off a customer base that is only like 5,000 people.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. They gotta follow the money, right? And if it's saying, hey, these kids are gonna buy Peppa Pig and Bluey or whatever it is, like, that's what we gotta do.
Paw Patrol, yeah.
Yeah, Paw Patrol and
Roblox.
I know, exactly. Yeah, it's different. I mean, today's kids are completely different than they were 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. Like I would say they're quite different. It's just changed so much in this digital era of social media and stuff.
Yeah. But I think, when I think back to when, Nintendo came out, when Atari for me came out, and then Nintendo after that, that's what I was interested in. Like, my toy buying dropped off, Christmas presents and birthday presents and stuff. Those became, I want this game. I want that next game. I want this other game. There were still figures I wanted, but I was definitely more interested in getting those more expensive kinds of toys. And if I was a 10-year-old kid right now with the video game technology being what it is, you would never find me with an actual action figure in my hand. I would be glued to the Xbox or the PlayStation or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Yeah, so I mean, like I was saying, prices are going up. Like in some cases, like you look at a TVC figure and it's like, okay, now it's at $17. Like, how high can they go until people decide, hey, this isn't, as much as I love this, as long as I've been collecting a line like this, at what point am I costed out? Do you foresee that point in time coming sooner rather than later, if you had to guess?
As far as my perception, I've never been in the industry, so I don't have access to any of those numbers or the information or how it specifically works. I'm assuming it's a supply and demand thing. As the market shrinks, as the adult collector market gets smaller, and the generation behind it is not filling in that drop off in purchasing power and purchasing quantity, then all of these companies are producing fewer things, and that means the price goes up. And we as adult collectors are asking for a lot more from them. Like if we were all content with 5 POA Kenner figures and O-ring GI Joe figures, and they could produce those in the millions like they used to, then yeah, we'd still be down in the like $5 to $10 range for this stuff. But that's not what we're asking for. We're asking for photorealistic. We're asking for pinless joints. We're asking for 6 different handsets with every figure. we're asking for cloth goods and wired capes and all this other stuff. And yeah, I think the larger companies are just been like, look, okay, we'll do that, but it's going to be a deluxe box set and it's going to cost you $55 and that's it. And we look at that and say, well, how can Hasbro do that?
Right.
I'll pay twice that for an independent. And it's like, well, why? Why are you holding them to a different standard? You're dealing with the same market, same quantity of buyers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, anyone that was collecting Power of the Force 2 in the 90s, didn't really, I mean, we knew that they looked, wild, as muscular and everything that they were, but
very briefly.
Yeah.
That was like the first couple waves. Once we got past like Lando, everything was okay.
True. They did kind of course correct fairly early on. But as time has gone on and people have thought to themselves, well, I've collected this, 10, 20, 25 years. It's like, I want this product to get better and better and better. And like you're saying, pinless joints, photoreal, super articulation, rocker ankles, all that
I was
stuff.
talking to somebody yesterday about Masters of the Universe, vintage Masters of the Universe action figures. So what the prices were then versus what they are right now. And I guessed that a vintage Masters of the Universe action figure, not looking it up, I figured they were probably like $3, we're talking like 1982, 83. How much did a vintage Masters of the Universe figure cost? I was guessing like $3. It was more like $5. It was closer to $5. And if you plug that into an inflation calculator, and inflation is a natural thing. It happens all the time under every presidential administration. Just the costs go up, right? And so if you plug that in, it comes out to being like $15-16 today. And so, how much are Origins figures? Aren't they like $15? Somewhere in that range, right? So it's like, I think you have to keep these things in context. It's not, you can't just say like, oh, $100 used to get me X figures and now it only gets me X figures. It's like, well, that was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not going to stay the same,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, no, for sure.
But everybody's got their breaking point, So you think 17 is about your cap for a vintage collection?
I mean, I feel like I'm something of a lifer. So, I mean, I can't see myself. I mean, I don't think they could say, hey, Victoria, here's a $50 TVC figure on a single card, go buy it. Like, I might have a problem at that point, but like, I think for now, as long as it's, relatively affordable, I think I could continue with it.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see, and obviously we're gonna know the answer to all these questions inevitably soon enough. It seems like Mattel is experimenting with like, what if we just do direct to consumer? Like Masterverse and Origins figures and stuff. Like, what if we only offer those through Mattel Creations website? Is that going to work? Can we do that? Is that a better way to reach all these collectors and make sure everybody gets their stuff?
Yeah.
I was shocked. Here I am, like I think about this stuff all the time, and I was like, when they did that new Eternia, I was like, well, that's going to bomb. And then it did great. They sold tons of those things. So I was like, all right, well, maybe the market's a little healthier than I thought it was, at least for that.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess they did that. They tried that right with Maddie Collector too sometime back. Like I think Ghostbusters was like one of the main things they were pushing through.
Well, that's the only reason the Masters of the Universe Classics line even existed was because of the subscription method,
Yeah, that's true. I think Hasbro will kind of trend in that direction personally. I think I can see, as there was that rumor a few weeks back that or I guess it wasn't a rumor, it was true. Target had discontinued the DPCI number for the vintage collection. And their planogram didn't have a space for it on the shelves. But then it was discovered like a week later that actually, no, some Targets do have it on there. And there's a new DPCI number for it. But I think it's just interesting because that doesn't typically happen, like for the way the Target usually operates with their toys. I do think Hasbro will, at least with the collector oriented like lines, I think they will kind of trend towards that sort of a model going forward. That's kind of, I'm guessing, but I kind of feel like that's going to happen eventually.
Yeah. And honestly, there have been a couple of pretty historic things that happened to the industry in the last, decade or so. We cannot underplay downplay the impact of both the years of the pandemic and how that just completely messed up the logistical end of things. I think there are still parts of the industry that are struggling to recover from that. And the loss of Toys R Us and the amount of buying power that they put into the market and the kinds of quantities. Target and Walmart and these other places still have not adjusted and probably won't at this point to make up for that loss of buying. And I think Playmates and Mattel and Hasbro and all the companies are still trying to say, well, what are we doing with our business now? You know, like, how are we fixing this? Is this market even still there? Can we still move this quantity of merchandise?
Yeah. And I think it's very telling that when Toys R Us, you know, did close all their stores in the US, Walmart and Target said, hey, we're going to expand our toy sections as a result of that. But now they're shrinking them.
Yeah.
Target especially is going to be shrinking over the next couple of years. Its footprint, you know, as far as the toy sections go. So I think that's very telling, like, as far as what you're saying about, you know, who's buying the toys, how many toys are they selling? Does it make sense to keep selling this many toys? So
yeah, it kills me. You know, it kills me when I see like, oh, blah, blah, blah line is failing because they already went to clearance, and blah, blah, blah is a peg warmer because I went to my Target 3 times this week and it's still there. It's like, I don't know if you can remember how things worked when you were a kid. Like, things were out for like a season and then they got refreshed, you know, and my entire adult life, I have watched Walmarts and Targets have not even the least bit of concern for keeping their toy aisle refreshed. My Walmarts don't get anything in stock. I could still go there and find figures from like 2 years ago on the shelves right now. Nothing that's worth anything, of course, because I would have put it on eBay already. But they just don't. And you see these issues with they don't change the SKU, right? So it's like the Black Series figure that was supposed to get clearanced has the same SKU as the one that's coming in. And so as soon as the new figure comes in, it goes right to clearance, you know, and whatever, and these sorts of things. But and I can't stress this enough, how small, how insignificant the numbers are for the kinds of things that we collect to businesses like Walmart and Target. It's just so insignificant. It's a lure to get you to the back of the store. So you buy 10 different things on your way back there, and on the way out, they got $200 from you.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah, no, they're in it to sell you bar soap and toothpaste and, you know, the basics, right?
Things adults actually need. Yes.
Yeah, or should be buying instead of, you know, Black Series figures. But you know, here we are.
So we have all these other outlets that haven't existed previously, you know, and it sucks if you're really in it for the hunt and you want to be surprised by what's on the shelves and you want to go make that 8 Target, you know, circuit in your state, you know, or whatever. I get it. I understand that. But if you actually want to be guaranteed to get the things you want at this point, it's just like all my shopping is done online now. Pre-order goes up, I pre-order it, and then, you know, 6 to 12 months later, maybe I get it, maybe I don't. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm done with the hunt. I gave up on it years ago.
I don't have the time or the energy.
No, same. You know, gasoline. You know, just like no. I got other things to do. I'm not gonna do that, especially when I already know 90% of the time there's not gonna be anything there. It's like, no.
Yeah, as far as action figures are concerned, you know, Targets and Walmarts, they'll crush that whole aisle and replace it with Lego if they need to, because they sell way more Lego.
Yeah, and I see lots of conversations here in going on in the chat about, you know, what's people are seeing or what their experiences are, what their buying limits are, how much they're gonna spend. So thank you guys for your comments. And we got 82 in the house. Thank you guys for hanging out. Not to sound cliche, but, you know, do hit the like button if you don't mind. Yeah, so we'll see what happens, Dan. I mean, it's going to be, I think, an interesting next few years. You know, how much are these toy sections going to shrink? How much our price is going to go up? And, you know, at what point are people going to start saying, hey, I'm getting, you know, at a stage in my life where maybe, you know, I loved this for, you know, 20, 30, 40 years, but, you know, now I need to, you know, focus on other things, or now I want to focus on other things. It'll be interesting.
You know, what I'm finding is I've bought Optimus Prime so many times that I'm like, I think I've got the one I like. I think I've got one that's pretty good. I could probably skip the next 3 Optimus Primes and explore other, kinds of action figures and characters and stuff. I've got enough Wolverines, I've got enough Spider-Mans, like let me experiment and see what is Mythic Legions doing? What is Animal Warriors of the Kingdom doing? What are these other new lines doing that's exciting and fresh and not something that I'm still weighed down by 40 years worth of nostalgia.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, Darth Vader, Batman, it's like they've all been done a million times over. Some of them are
Darth
great.
Vader sitting on my desk right here.
There you go. Yeah, some of them are great, some not. But if you haven't found one that you don't love at this point, then you're probably just not collecting right. So, yeah, no, new and fresh things are definitely interesting. I think like Mythic Legion stuff, like new stuff that people are like latching onto because it's new and it has that same feel of action figure and creativity and ingenuity, but it's fresh, it's something different. Like that's really exciting to see. And I hope, these smaller companies continue to press and do those things. I think we need more of that.
Yeah, there's more risk taking there. There's a lot more experimenting. You can't blame Hasbro for making decisions based on the stockholders, because that's how the business works. That's who they are. They're a corporation. They're all publicly held companies, and at the end of the quarter, they got to report earnings and stuff. McFarlane doesn't have stockholders, so he can make his decisions based on his own whims. He's still looking out for his wallet, but
he can make 99.9% male action figures if he wants to.
So. And he came out, he got that DC license and immediately grabbed like 4 to 6 feet worth of shelf space in every Target. Just like grabbed it from everybody else. And it's been there for, 4 years now.
Yeah, it's nuts. It is nuts. Well, cool. What do you say we talk about the HasLab?
Sure enough.
What's going on with the HasLab, Dan? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I'm not going to believe it until it's live.
Yeah.
I saw the pictures, but I'm not going to believe it until it's live.
Right.
I'm also probably not going to buy it. So I don't know, whatever my opinion is worth.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it was in March that Hasbro had said, I talked about this at length, on Saturday, like they said, hey, May the 4th, new HasLab, the vintage collection, we're announcing it. And, so we've had it in our minds the last few months, like, oh, it's coming on, May the 4th, the big Star Wars, celebration time, and everybody's excited. And then a few days before it was like, oh, no, not yet. Sorry, just kidding.
Temper your expectations. Yeah.
Yes. You got to wait a little bit longer. We're still perfecting it, whatever that means. And while they maintain this delay, regardless of what rumors were of it being or not being, this interesting thing happens on the Hasbro Pulse website this week. And it's kind of like, okay, what is going on, Hasbro? Like, I really need to know what is going on here.
You're talking about the $1 HasLab?
That's a whole other thing I wasn't even referring to. Yeah.
Okay.
But
and people still complained it was too expensive.
Yes, I'm going to jump back to Yaktace on Instagram, because I think the image is still here. Yeah, so I mean, this I don't even know if I could really. I hesitate to call it a leak, and I don't generally cover like leaks really, but this was officially like available on the Hasbro Pulse website. So, I mean, is that a leak? Is it not?
Yeah.
So it was up there, and all I can really remark on is what's shown here, right? Like this is a screen grab from the site, and it was reposted from the Star Wars toy collector here on Instagram. So this actually did go live. I'm reading the description here. For a few minutes, this went live within the last day or two. But it was not, it's not anything that Hasbro commented on, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
Essentially what it is, though, is as you can see, it says Star Wars Vintage Collection Mos Eisley Cantina playset, $399.99. But right below that, it says that there is a deluxe playset for like $100 more. What that means, who knows? That's what this says. That's what this at least here says. Is it real? Yes, it's real. But is this what you can expect when the HasLab actually releases? I think is a whole other topic.
Right. Yeah. No, there's definitely still some more information to come there to justify the $400 price. For sure.
Yeah. It's just weird that this even happened. It's like, I don't know, but I feel like from what I'm seeing here, that this, to me, like just it feels to me like this maybe was like a very early sort of mock-up for what the eventual listing on their website would look like. I don't think we should really focus too much on price, details, or even the image might be outdated at this point. I feel like this isn't 100% like where things might be at now.
Yeah.
But to me, it feels more like it was kind of like a mock-up of, them designing the page, and for whatever reason, they've actually put it on the site and accidentally posted it.
Are you a completist when it comes to vintage collection?
Did
you back the Ghost?
I did. I backed the Ghost, the Sail Barge,
Razor Crest.
The Razor Crest. If you would have asked me this question a year and a half ago, I would have said yes. But there is something I skipped in the last year or so, and that was the Book of Boba Fett Starship, because they had just released it as the Empire Strikes Back version a couple of years before, and I was like, am I going to spend $200 to buy that again with a little bit different deco? And I was like, no, I'm not. So I can't say I'm a completist anymore.
Did you get the Empire Strikes Back, like the carbonite freeze chamber, that sort of diorama playset?
Oh yeah,
there were like 2 that you could connect them. And I think they did the corridor as well. And then did you get the Jabba's diorama whole throne room thing? Did that release yet, or was that only pre-ordered?
That was pre-ordered. That's the one that comes with 8D8, and I think it comes out later this year. The 8D8 without elbows, I must add.
Yeah. But you ordered that one. Okay. So sounds like you're in on this, probably.
If it is in fact,
obviously caveats.
Yeah, I mean the cantina is like my thing. Like that's since I was a kid. This has always been my favorite scene in all of Star Wars. So like 100%, like I would be in on this.
Interesting. Are there features that you hope it has? Lights or like electronic cantina band music or something?
I think I could pipe my own music into this. So I hope they don't charge me another $40 to figure out a way to do that. But there are certain characters that I think are essential to a set like this.
Sure. Lax Sivrak, Wolfman, original Wolfman.
Well, other than the Tonica sisters, I would take Lax Sivrak. I would take a new gosh, there's so many that they've done that really need to be redone at this point. Back from the Power of the Force 2 days, like Labria, the devil guy. Yeah,
some of those figures are showing their age for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Some they haven't done, like Arleal Shoes, like the other Wolfman guy. That used to be in I mean, he's still there, but he's not as prominent as he was, until a special edition. New Wooher the bartender, new I mean, there's so many that they
battle damaged Greedo.
Fried Greedo, I would take that.
Just a big blaster burn on him. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what shows up when they announce it, and how the campaign goes. Look, if the only reason these crowdfund campaigns exist is to entertain me for a few weeks, I'm fine with it. I love watching them.
I mean, this is exciting, but I would 100%, reiterate to people, don't take what you see on this as 100%, like, don't take it as gospel. I don't think these details are finalized. I don't think the price is finalized. I think this is just like an early mock-up for the site. I don't want anybody to like expect this 100% when it launches. I don't think this is going to be exactly like, what the end result is
Yeah,
necessarily.
there's a lot of shuffling going on at Hasbro in the last, several months, between the layoffs, between Steve going back to, Star Wars and stuff. I think this probably is at least some way related to those behind the scenes issues, and I hope for everybody's sake, customers and Hasbro employees, I hope that it's all in the interest of doing what they say they're doing, is trying to make it the best thing that they can possibly offer.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So you said you would not back the Cantina. Just curious, is there a particular reason for that? Is it because it's like the
Yes.
price or?
Lots of reasons. One, price, yeah, for sure. That's a lot of money, and it's certainly not in my budget. Two, I just the way my collection is displayed and the way I collect, I don't really have room for the sort of world building kinds of things, play sets, dioramas, vehicles. I just don't have the space for it, and so I don't pursue it. And even going back to when I was a kid, getting action figures and stuff. The play sets, those kinds of things, just it wasn't really for me. I'm a fan of the figures. I know when the topic of like mask comes up, people are like, well, you can't do mask without the vehicles, and I'm like, yeah, you can, just do the figures, who cares? Like, I just want the figures, I want the characters. But I've been a 6-inch collector for a very long time. For me, it is more of an ideal scale. I do have, in fact, before the show started, I was pulling together I was trying to think of what I actually had for vintage collection action figures. And then I pulled up galacticfigures.com to have their vintage collection inventory on screen. So I could see really, like, do I have more, because the line gets blurry, right, between like legacy collection and vintage collection and the actual collection, the figures for the movies. And I have more than I thought, but I guess there's like a big reboot kind of around 2013 ish, somewhere around there, 2013. And since then, that was like Last Jedi ish, I think, somewhere around there. But in the last couple of years, I had the Darth Vader that I held up a few minutes ago. That's vintage collection. I've got Bo-Katan here. You're gonna notice the theme real quick. Din Djarin, another Mando. Got old Boba Fett, Jedi Boba Fett, Kenner Colors Boba Fett. So for me, it's while I am mostly 6-inch figure collector or larger figures, whatever, 7-8 inch, in that sort of range. I'll still pick up 4-inch scale action figures if I just think it's a cool figure, if it's a specific character that I want, or like, Kenner colored Boba Fett. It's like, I gotta have that. I have to have that. That's my guy.
Totally.
So the playset just doesn't make any sense there's no part of it that makes sense for me. I hope it's good. I hope fans like it. I hope the price makes sense. I hope it gets funded. I hope all the stretch goals or whatever get funded. But it's not something that I'll be backing personally myself.
Fair enough.
And that's how it was. I didn't back the sail barge. I didn't back the Razor Crest. I didn't back the Ghost. They all looked gorgeous. When that Ghost hits, Rebels is my favorite Star Wars other than the original trilogy. And when people get that Ghost in hand, I'm going to be seriously jealous of it, but also reminding myself that I just have no place for it.
Yeah, no, fair point. I mean, yeah, these HasLabs are huge. They take up a lot of space. And if, you have a few other things in your collection, may be hard to, I don't even know where I'm going to put the Ghost. Honestly, I have no clue. But hey, that's
like, it's a dynamic ship on screen, but I don't, if I was going to display it, I guess I would, like, I have some very large, like 1/18 scale, like military airplanes, like World War II aircraft, that kind of stuff. And I have those sort of laying flat, hung on the wall. And I guess that's how I would display the Ghost, just kind of suspended on the wall. But that takes away all of its play set, functionality. It's just a thing on the wall. I just paid, $300 for a thing that's on the wall.
Yeah.
And I can't do that.
Yeah. Point. I mean, I do appreciate, that they've engineered it in a way that you can put it on the shelf and just kind of display like 2/3 of it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like that's the kind of thing I like to see, like, built into these HasLabs. And even the Razor Crest, that's how I display it without one of the engines on, because you can't see it from one side.
Right.
So I mean that's pretty neat to have. But yeah, I mean, they're vehicle / playsets, right? So you definitely want to be able to enjoy that playset aspect.
Yeah, you want that functionality. I had that super deluxe Millennium Falcon for quite a while, but I was never able to like have it out or do anything with it. It just kind of like stayed in the basement in a closet because it just took up too much space. It was just too big.
Yeah.
Like the classified his tank I have up on my shelf over here, but it is exactly as wide as my shelves, so I can just like I see you've got your Clone Wars tank back there, troop carrier there behind you, and that's how it is. It fits in the back of the shelf. It's exactly the same width as the shelf, so it's not taking up too much space. I can pull it down if I need to. It's got a cool silhouette, that works for how I need to display it.
Yeah, there you go.
Somebody asked if I have a slave one. I have the micro collection. I used to have. I think I still have a vintage one somewhere. And I used to have one of the really nice Hasbro release ones, but I've pretty much purged all the vehicles out of my collection.
Right on. Thank you, Ray Death. We appreciate that very much. Yes, I see some folks asking they have their own Cantina wants. Helenet says, I want a Jenny with my Cantina. I think Jenny was I think that was the lady that maybe Han was making out with in the like deleted shot or whatever it was. That's funny. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure. But how did you find out about this news, Dan, that the HasLab had been delayed?
On the live stream. I get news. I follow all the same news people, Toy Shiz and Preternia and Yakface and whoever else. So it popped up on various places. It came across multiple social media feeds for me.
Yeah. The mysterious Toy Shiz. Nobody knows what he looks like, but I do because I've met him in person.
I have also met him. So
nice. We know what he looks like. So yeah, it was all over the news, Dan. This is how I found it. I'm going to show you here.
They brought back Cronkite for that?
Apparently.
Well, it was important news then.
Yeah. And Ed Murrow, like it was pretty important. Yeah. They yeah. Well, cool. I hope we get news sooner rather than later, because now that all this little bit has come out and leaked and everything, I hope that it's sooner rather than later, because I think the longer you wait now at this point is like, I don't know, but we'll see. Comic-Con isn't that far away, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it. Before you know it, you'll be, trying to do the math. Is it this paycheck or is it next paycheck?
Yeah, that's how you look at things at this point, right? It's like, what paycheck is that one going to come out of? Nice. All right, so let's transition over to our last topic here. And that last topic is 25 years of the Phantom Menace. Dan, how has it been 25 years since the Phantom Menace?
Time. You can't stop time. There's nothing you can do. It just keeps going. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
It's nuts. Did you get a chance to catch it in theaters for the re-release?
No. I saw it in theaters 8 times when it was originally released. So I feel like I got my fill, and I've seen it, probably dozens of times at least since it was in theaters. So I know it pretty well, and it wasn't the kind of thing that I really felt compelled to go see it in theaters again. That final lightsaber duel is still epic. It's still amazing, but it's also only like 26 seconds long. So I didn't feel like I needed to sit through the whole pod race again just to get to that lightsaber battle again. I can just cue it up on my big TV in the living room,
right?
Disney Plus.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think I saw it 3 times in the theater. I was in middle school when it came out, and I caught it 3 times. And I remember like being like, so back then, like the internet was really like in its infancy, like when the rumors about the Phantom Menace started coming onto the internet and stuff. And I remember maybe even the first time I was ever on the internet, I was there in the school library and I was looking at I was like looking, I don't even know, it wasn't Google's, I don't know, web crawler, Alta Vista, who knows it,
Right.
you know what it
Yeah.
was. But I was looking up like Star Wars episode 1 and I remember reading about, the new bad guy. His name is Darth Maul and he has a double-bladed lightsaber and I'm like, "Oh wow, that's going to be cool." And then like to actually see it like a year later like in theaters and like live that, because I wasn't around during the OT. I caught the
Yeah.
special editions like in theater. Um but to see like a new Star Wars like movie like in the theater like along with everybody else like that was a very special thing at the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And anybody who did grow up with the original trilogy obviously has a different kind of relationship with it, because you lived with Star Wars being a certain thing for so long, and whether you wanted to or not, you couldn't help but have some sort of prejudices against the thing. At least if you were like me, who when I was in college from 91 to 94, 1990, excuse me, 94 to 98. I graduated college in 98. When I was in college from 94 to 98, myself and my suite mates, we watched one of those three movies, the original trilogy, every single day, and sometimes multiples per day. They would just always be running in the sort of shared common area. They would always be running. So when the special editions came out, when the little bit of footage, extra footage you could have seen, for the special editions before those came out, it was such a big deal. We were all collecting vintage Star Wars stuff. The fact that the prequels were actually going to happen was so huge. So I think the first, 2-3 times I saw it in the theater, I couldn't even absorb. I couldn't even absorb what it was, like all these new characters, all these new concepts. That's not how I pictured Obi-Wan. That's not how I pictured, Anakin. Who's this Qui-Gon guy? Who's this Jar Jar guy? What is even happening? And it was difficult because the original trilogy is so burned into my brain that I can't even react fully to it without the next two movies come out,
Mhm.
So I can't even judge it until I know what happens in the next episode, and how does that connect to the original trilogy. It's like
Yeah.
anything that I didn't like about episode 1 at the time, it'd be like, well, okay, I don't like Jar Jar. Well, what if he turns into the coolest character ever in episode 2? And what if he, does something amazing in episode 3? It's like, I can't, it's a chapter of the story and I can't react until I get all the chapters.
Right. Yeah. No, that's it's fascinating, really. I mean, it like, I guess for me as a kid, like it was cool. Like I really enjoyed it. And, it wasn't until years later actually that I started reading that, there was like a huge backlash towards it. I think,
Yeah.
being the age I was, I think I was kind of shielded from that.
But that's the thing,
And
is you were the right age for it. It's for kids. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, adults can watch it too, and adults can enjoy it and love it and have fun with it. But the whole reason I enjoyed the original trilogy is I was 7 years old, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I guess I have my own version of that though, because like I always think of like Jurassic Park, like that was like amazing, right?
Yeah.
And then they followed it up with sequels and then a newer trilogy, and it's like, no, I mean it's cool and all, but it's not my original Jurassic Park, right? Um, so yeah, I have a version of that for sure.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, and you can't help it. You can sort of work around it and try not to be a jerk about it, but you can't help that you think that way. I'll always be more partial to G1 Transformers. I'll always be more partial to, for me, it's maybe this won't make sense. I don't know, but like for me, Gundam is one robot. It's the first robot, because for like 10 years that was the only Gundam I knew. So when you say Gundam, it's that guy. It's RX-78. There's only a Gundam, and then when it started to come to the US and the late 90s, it's like all of a sudden there's all these other Gundams and you have to specify. I mean Gundam Wing, I mean, Death Scythe, I mean, what but for me, Gundam will always be that one thing. And so Star Wars, from 77 to 99 or whenever episode 1 came out, Star Wars meant episode 4. There were 3 movies: Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. And it's like, you can't deprogram that from yourself. It's just part of who you are. It's part of your enjoyment of the thing. Nobody calls it I mean, I guess people call it a New Hope now, but it just wasn't the thing. And yeah, I thank my lucky stars that the internet didn't exist, that social media didn't exist when I was in the stupid years of being a fan and collecting things and whatever, because there would be a terrible, terrible paper trail of the awful things I said about the prequels. For sure.
Yeah. The times have definitely changed for sure.
And I would feel bad because there are so many people that love it. And I'm happy for them, and I'm glad they love it.
Yeah, right on. It came out in 3D in 2011, I want to say, or 2012. They brought it back in 3D, and I think that's the last time it was in theaters until this last week. And I got the opportunity to go and see it a couple of nights ago, and I'm glad I did. Like, I was almost not going to go, but then, like, having gone and sitting there in that theater seat, I could still, like, visualize, like, walking into the theater in 1999 to see it the first time. And then I started having flashbacks of, like, the news clips that were on TV. And I started thinking about the toy shelves, like both sides of the aisles just covered in episode 1 merchandise, and how there had not been anything like that up to that point, and there hasn't been anything like that since. And it kind of all came flooding back. So
yeah,
I kind of had like a moment where I was kind of like wow, like it's cool because I understand that now, but at the same time, like I like and I'm doing the same things I was 25 years ago.
Absolutely. It was very exciting, and just as a collector and a fan of the pop culture stuff and whatever, I went to the midnight opening of the action figures. I bought one of every single one figure in wave 1. I bought some of the Action Fleet stuff. We had all the Pizza Hut, or not Pizza, KFC, Taco Bell, whatever, whoever was doing the cup toppers, we had all of those. We were picking up every single thing because it was exciting. Star Wars came out in 77. I was born in 76. So I had no recollection of that experience. It wasn't until the tail end of Empire and Return of the Jedi that I really started to be able to remember that kind of stuff. And so to be as old as I was when episode 1 came out, and to be able to share that with my mom, who's a big fan of science fiction and pop culture and all this stuff, that was fun and that was exciting. And that to me is the experience of episode 1, whether I liked the movie or not.
Absolutely. And, it was definitely such a pop culture like moment that it's still, very, I could just see it, and feel it and visualize it and just like go back to that moment in my mind. But, yeah, like whether or not, like, and I say this with any movie, whether or not you like it, like the toys and the merchandising is always like a whole other like animal, right? And if you like the film, sure, maybe you like the toys more, but I'm just drawn to like good, creative, fun toys. And like for episode 1, it was just like, everything's new, right? Like there's no like, I mean, nothing's really connected. Like these days when they do new Star Wars, like it's like, is it connected to like to Darth Vader, to Luke? Is it like, what are the connections? But then there's things like this episode 1 where it's like, it's kind of like a clean slate, because there is a general story they need to follow, but it's how do you do that? Like, what's the approach?
Sure. Yeah.
So, it was just a really exciting time. And, it's fun to think about it, because I think anybody that maybe you were born after this time frame, or you got into collecting Star Wars, like after that, like it's just that moment was just so like unique. And so, I mean, now I just feel like it's so nostalgic and so special. So it's
sure.
It's cool to remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on. Thank you guys who are still hanging out with us here in the chat. So, Dan, I think we're going to move on to our final segment that we have here, and that is new acquisitions. Has there been anything that you have added to your collection? Are there things that I've added to my collection? And everybody in the chat, is there anything you've added to your collection this week? Let us know. We want to know what you've been adding to your collection. But no matter what it is, whether you have or you have something, it always comes back to this.
I want more. And I know I shouldn't.
Every time.
Good.
So, Dan, what have you added to your collection recently?
I think for me, it's you could probably play the clip of the various goons falling into the Sarlacc pit. Like that's me. That's the collector pit, and I keep falling into it. Somebody's got to like try to get me out. I took advantage of on May the 4th. I took advantage of some of the sales that were going around. So my wife's a big fan of the Ewoks. So we were finally able to get the Pop Blue, which we didn't have yet. I think the only one I'm missing is the one that came in that like Comic-Con box set. I don't remember who that was. Warrock, maybe. I don't know who it was, but I don't have that guy yet. And then I also got Ahsoka, Hera. Like I said, Rebels my favorite after the original trilogy. Rebels my favorite Star Wars. So happy to see Hera show up in live action. Happy to see Chopper show up in live action. Ezra, it was just Zeb, everybody. It's been great to see everybody show up in live action. So I had to get that figure for sure. And then beyond that, actually today, I just got this Storm Collectibles Gotcha Man Ken Eagle figure. Really, really nice. It came out last year. I had it on pre-order and I canceled it because it was really expensive. And then they announced June the other day, and I looked up pricing for this, and it's come down. Amazon had it like $40 cheaper than what it originally was. So I was like, click, thank you. And then the other recent acquisition would be this Joy Toy Warhammer figure, which I don't collect Warhammer. I don't know anything about Warhammer. I'm not interested in it. The colors on this kind of reminded me of, Kenner Colors Boba Fett. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'll go grab that one. And it was, it also was on sale. I think it was like $20. So I grabbed that.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
that's definitely fun. For me, I got a few things. So, it was May the 4th on Saturday, right? So there were a lot of things that went for sale. Shop Disney, they oftentimes, or DisneyStore.com, sorry, it's not Shop Disney anymore. They oftentimes carry things from the Disney parks, Star Wars stuff. So I did get a few things. So I got a couple of Kyber crystals, got a white one, a yellow one. And if you have like the holocrons that they made and still make, or the wayfinders, like they interact with those, so you can
do you know, are they also for the lightsabers that you build in the park?
I think I've never built one.
Okay.
I believe so.
Yeah,
I think that they maybe somehow interact on some level, I want to say, but I need to do that. That's one thing I still needed. I was into the droids, like hardcore, like doing the droids for a bit. I got those. They also put up, it is an episode 1 figure. At least somebody is making 3.25-inch Star Wars episode 1 figures for its 25th anniversary. Disney has a TC-14, and it looks quite nice, I gotta say. It looks quite nice. They did a good job with it. I'm not saying that Hasbro isn't making any episode 1 figures, but they're not, so I guess I am.
Right.
I did get a couple of Black Series figures. Yes, I know. Boo hiss. I got a couple of Black Series figures. So I have the new Clone Trooper, Phase 1. And I will take this opportunity to comment that I do not like the red for Attack of the Clones. Like, to me, it just doesn't work. Should not be red. That should be Revenge of the Sith. But that's just me being me. And then I got another that Shop Disney had, and this was the 2-pack of Mace Windu and the 187th Legion Clone Trooper.
Nice. I have the first release of Mace Windu, and that the one of the best faces, one of the best head sculpts. And
he's really good.
It looks great,
for sure. This clone is so interesting to me because it started off as being a Hasbro creation back in 2007, I want to say 2008, somewhere in there, for the 30th anniversary line. It was a 3.75-inch. That was the very first time. It wasn't called 187th. It was just like a Hasbro creation. Then it appeared in the comics, and that's when it was named the 187th clone, because Mace has a purple saber. Of course, he has purple clones and a purple droid and a purple Jedi Starfighter. All that. Of course. So it did become like a thing in the comics, and now all these years later, Black Series has a version of it, and also at the parks, Disney is selling a helmet of the Clone Trooper in that exact color palette. So that's kind of cool.
Gotcha. Yep. Awesome.
I wonder if Hasbro even realizes that they created that, after all this time.
Who knows? Are you a fan of the multi-packs, the 2-packs?
I mean, I don't buy all of them because with Black Series, I kind of more a little selective, but I think it's kind of cool. I do. I mean, if it came down to single releases that maybe never existed and this is the only way to do it, then I think it's kind of nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I have heard people say, you know, it is a hard way to army build if you want a bunch of that clone, like, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can army build your Mace Windu collection as well.
Yeah, same issue with that C-3PO with the battle droid with the C-3PO head. It's like, well, how many of those do you need? One. You only need one.
Yeah, that one should have come with the battle droid head for sure.
Yeah, it really should have.
And if you didn't buy that one, now you can get the Super Battle Droid by itself. So awesome. So let's see. I see a few folks commenting on what they have been getting. Jason says, I bought that Parks exclusive mall lightsabers that had the music box and a few other sabers. Very nice. Congrats on that, Jason. I know that was a popular release this year. Tech 715, I caved and pre-ordered the TMNT Transformers collab. Hasbro sold out a while ago, but I got it through Big Bad Toy Store. Very nice. Rhino Hobbies, I got the TVC Red 5 and TVC TIE Fighter for less than retail, new in box. Very nice. Mary says she also got TC14 and the TVC Phase 2 Clone Trooper 4-pack. Yeah, that's a really nice 4-pack. Those clones are great. Pico B1 says, I'm in vintage Ewok mode. I've been collecting the preschool Ewoks. Don't judge. They are just so beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome.
You like what you like. It's all good.
You like what you like. That's all that matters for sure. Oh, and Jason says, yes, those do work for the buildable sabers. And McMurphy says, same thing. Very nice. Perfect. Good to know. Trevor says, huge pickup week, another HK-47, another Hoth Trooper, Rabbit, Coleman Trooper, Party Vizsla Chopper, Hera, the N1 Starfighter, and a Partridge. Very nice. That's definitely a good haul right there. Pico B1 says, I also bought an extra leg for HK-50 from Legacy Build-A-Droids. Now the fourth on the shelf. Very nice. Those are my favorite pack-ins. The droid parts, those are the best pack-ins. Very nice. I think that's everybody that commented on that. So yeah, cool, you guys. Thank you for sharing your acquisitions with us. We definitely appreciate it. Dan, were there any other comments or topics you wanted to touch on? Or
no, I think we covered pretty much a pretty good spectrum of stuff. Absolutely.
Awesome. Are you I saw somebody commented on it a minute ago. Are you having the whole Northern Lights thing in your area?
I don't think so. I don't recall seeing anything about that. I'm in very southern New Hampshire, so I'm not sure if we're quite far enough up to be able to see that.
Right on. Yeah, I definitely don't think we'll have it like here in San Diego, but you know, I'm glad for people that can see it in higher areas of more northern areas of the U.S. That's cool. Very cool. Dan, hey, it's been a blast.
Absolutely.
I've got a link to your Instagram and to your YouTube channel, Perfect. Secret Galaxy, right below. So you guys, I'm sure you have already, but if you haven't, you're a straggler, whatever.
Check it out.
Check it out. Get on that. Links down below.
Instagram is really the only place that I really do any kind of figure reviewing. You know, when I post everything I get and I'll say something about it. It's cool. I love it. This is bad. I like that part, whatever, you know, but that's a good place to keep in touch with what I'm getting.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because that's kind of what I've turned my Instagram to, because I don't really review on YouTube and haven't for a long time now. But I kind of, when there's a new wave of figures or there's a new something I get excited about, I'm like, oh, check this out. This is what's cool about it or not cool about it.
Well, I'm going to be heartbroken when Instagram tanks at some point, because at some point they're just going to turn it off and they're going to say you're either on Threads or you're not. Get out of here, you know. And you know, it's a and I mean, I still have all my original photographs and stuff, but I like having that in one place, this scrapbook catalog of everything I've purchased, when I purchased it, what I thought about it, what quality camera I was using, you know, going back for, you know, almost 10 years at this point. It's gonna be disappointing when it goes away.
For sure. Right on. Well, Dan, thanks again for coming on to Cantina Social Hour, and hopefully we can do this again before 2 years. And to everybody that's been hanging out with us, thank you very much. We really appreciate you spending your Friday evening with us here in the Cantina. No matter where you're tuning in from out in the galaxy, we will see you next week. Be well, be safe. May the force be with you. Take care. We will see you next week. Same time, same place, same channel.